testing cheats on the space. And so it's going to say cheats are then enabled. And from here on out, you can use any cheats that you want. Now that you have the cheats bar open and cheats are activated, the first cheat I'm just going to tell you to do is type in motherload. Keep typing motherload. And what that does is it gets you 50,000 simoleons at the bottom left corner of your screen. I'll be dropping the relevant cheats right here, so feel free to pause the video at any time and screenshot if you wanted to reference these cheats when you're playing The Sims in the future. The three cheats that I'm going to be going over are bb.ignore gameplay unlock entitlement, bb.move objects on, and then the last one is bb.enable free build. You'll see below that I filtered out objects that you need to unlock. And so what you're going to do with the bb ignore gameplay unlocks entitlement, say that 5 times fast, is once you press enter, all these items that were previously locked are now unlocked. For the second cheat for build by mode, I've actually just dropped this random room in the middle of the lot. Do bb.move objects and then space, press on. You'll be able to actually move objects and intersect with each other. Alright, so I'm back at the Willow Creek menu just to showcase this last cheat, which is bb.enable free build. Let's say that I'm content with my build and the lot that I've chosen when I first started, but I really want to build on other lots. If I type in bb.enable free build, it will say free build mode is enabled, and now I can build on any lot, even if it's not my own lot. Back to my actual build so I can show you the controls for the game. First thing I like to do is change my Sims 4 camera to the Sims 3 camera. The main difference here is that if I'm clicking down on the scroll button and I'm using the Sims 4 camera, it will move my entire frame view. If you click the 3 dots right here, go to game options, go to game camera, and click the Sims 3 camera, and apply changes, of course. I can click onto the scroll button again, drag my mouse, and I'll see a different angle of the builds that I'm working on. I can hit Control Z or Command Z if you're using a map to undo, and then of course Control or Command Y to redo it. If I click on the bed and I want to remove it, you'll see it's kind of locked to the grid that the Sims 4 comes in. But if I hold Alt, it gives me a little bit more freedom. I'm unlocked from the grid, and I can put this object next to other objects more closely. For example, next to this wall, where previously I wouldn't be able to microspace that close. If you want to see a top-down view of a build that you're building with, press E, and you can see that it's like a bird's eye view. So feel free to use that to your advantage when you're trying to get a better angle for your builds. You're gonna toggle that off, press T again. This eyedropper tool is really handy if you're trying to make new walls or new rooms and use the same wallpaper, for example. If I really like this beehive wallpaper, press E, and then you can put it onto any other wall or surface that you're actually creating. I would just hold and drag it down. Now this designer tool is super helpful. If you like an item that's already in a house, but you don't like the swatch, press R, click into it, and now you have an array of different swatches that you can choose from. And then this sledgehammer tool is really good for just erasing things in your build. If I wanted to destroy this entire wall, I would go sledgehammer, drag across, your wall is gone. Say you already have a pre-existing room, you could go and actually move that entire room. So move house, I can click on that, and then move the entire room. And then if I just wanted to completely erase a lot that I already have, I can click bulldoze. I can start from a fresh canvas. So by now you should know the cheats and the main hotkeys that you'll be using. What you need to know to build a shell of a house is you just press B, and that will again bring you to the walls and room section. And so 3 walls to make a room, or if you want to be really quick with it, you hold shift when you're making a wall, and that'll actually just automatically make you a room. My view in the wall, it looks a little funky because I have my walls down, but if I wanted to look at it from the external side, I would click walls up view. If I wanted to look at it from the internal side, I would click walls down view. This roof tool, if you click right here, will let you choose from a different amount of roofs. I would not want to live in this house because it'd be very dark and there would be no way to get in or out. The next thing you're going to want to do is build a door. Just go to this build section, click on the door section. I'll click on a door and place it. Next thing I'm going to do is add some windows to get some natural lighting in. You click on the windows section and then you can add some windows. And you want to make sure that when you're adding windows to your buildings, you're doing it from all sides so that light comes through multiple entryways. And there you go. That is an overview of how to actually get a shell of a house into The Sims 4. From here on out, a lot of it is pretty self-explanatory. You'll click on the objects that you see in this build section right here. For example, if I wanted to add a wallpaper to it or a pattern to it, it's a simple drag and drop. If you wanted something to just pop into your game, you click this gallery icon right here. It's a little heart inside of a light bulb, or you can press F4. And then from here on out, there are a ton of different houses, households, rooms that you can download and just swap for a place in your lot that you're already using. The first thing to look out for when you're downloading a lot from the gallery is to make sure that the packs that you have are compatible with that lot's object. example, if I did not have get together, but then the objects that are in this lot use get together assets, then I wouldn't be able to download that lot. You should look out for lots that have a perfect lot size. For example, I wouldn't be able to download this big lot and put it in my 30 by 20 lot because it's way too big for the lot that I'm currently using. I see this lot is probably appropriately sized. Yep, place lot. I'm going to place it furnished, but you have the option to do unfurnished. It's going to replace everything you currently have in build mode, so that one room and the right triangle room that I have are going to get erased. I will press yes. It's a completely functional house that I can start working in. You should at this point have everything you need to know to get started in build buy mode for The Sims 4. If you are happy with the build that you already have, make sure to save so you don't have all of your progress lost. And then you can access your builds and edit it at any time from here on out. So that about does it for today's video. Again, today's video is very basic, making sure you have the tools you need to start your Sims 4 gameplay and live. Did you just download The Sims 4 for free? Well, I am so excited for you because The Sims 4 is a huge tool with a lot of different customization options to let you play your Sims however you want. But I know it can be a very complicated game to start off with at first, so let me help you by being your guide in a few videos to make sure you're starting off The Sims 4 on the right foot. My name is Russell. I'm a little bit of a casual simmer myself, so hopefully that helps me help you figuring out and pointing out the tips, tricks, cheats in The Sims 4 that I wish I knew when I first started out. For this guide, I'm going to assume that I'm talking to complete newbie players or newbie simmers that might have just downloaded the game for free, like today. I'm also going to be assuming that you are playing on PC or Mac, because I'm playing on the PC. A lot of the controls are pretty interchangeable. You got control for PC, you got command for Mac most of the time. And I will also be playing using a mouse with a scroll button. Definitely recommend a scroll button for this game. With that said, let's start off with cast mode, also known as create a sim mode, because that's really the first thing you're going to see when you start off the game. So now that you've downloaded The Sims 4, you're on the main menu. Yours might look a little different from mine. It really depends on what packs you have or how many days you've been playing The Sims 4. Just click new game. It will go to a loading screen and you'll be greeted with a little create my story tool for The Sims 4 create a sim mode. This is the first out of what I like to define 4 different ways you can approach the mode. Basically, they ask a series of questions, and depending on how you answer those questions, it will shape your Sim's personality and looks. So I'm going to run through this very quickly so I don't bore you, but feel free to answer this on your own time if you want to use this tool. Okay, and now we have a random person. That's the first way. If you really want to just start The Sims 4 off, don't really want to put too much time into create a sim mode, that's there for you so you have something to start off with. Now the second way I like to approach create a sim mode, or the second way you can approach create a sim mode, is by randomizing everything you want. You can randomize things from your name, both your first and your last name. So we got Maxwell here. You can randomize things like your traits. You can randomize your likes and dislikes too. And then if you don't like the way your sim is appearing right now, you can even randomize their fit. So boom, there's a random sim right there. You can go as far as randomizing specific parts of his sim's appearance. So right here I have clothing off, but if I only like his clothes and I don't like anything else, I can randomize just his clothes. So to recap, the first 2 ways you can generally approach create a sim mode is by using that create my story tool, or just going out and randomizing your sim as much as you want. A third way you can approach create a sim mode is by using the gallery. So if you click right here, opening the gallery, you will be required to connect to the internet, but there are basically a ton of different creations, ton of households, lots, and even rooms within those lots that you can straight up download and replace your current household with and start playing immediately. For example, if I was in a rush and I just wanted to choose any sim I wanted to, I could download this random household right here, click place household, and then replace the current sim household that I'm creating right now. And now I have a fully created set of sims to play with. So the approaches that I just went over for create a sim mode are really for people who don't have a specific idea and just want to get into the game. But if you're like me and you like playing the game by scratch, you're going to start off by saying no thanks to the create my story tool. You'll be generated with a random sim, and then you can edit every detail after that to your liking. Before I actually get into creating my sim from scratch, I'm going to be going over a few key controls that I really wish I knew before I started playing The Sims 4. Create a sim mode is probably the easiest mode in terms of controls to explain because it's really a lot of dragging, clicking, and it's pretty intuitive. The first click and drag option that a lot of people miss is your shoes. So if you go down, you can make them really small, or you can make them really big. Another thing is your shoulder, hip, and your chest size. In terms of framing your sim, typically your chest, shoulders, and hips really does make a difference to make sure your sim looks like the way you want your sim to look like. The biggest click and drag section that people miss most of the time is the posture section. So if you move your sim to the side, highlight the back right here. If you drag up, your sim will have really uptight posture. If you drag down, your sim will slouch a lot in live mode. I like to point this out because it's one of the first ways to get people to understand that details about your sim's personality and appearances really does impact the way that they'll look like in live mode later down the line. If you want to tell a story about a sim that slouches a lot, maybe they're not too active, maybe they're down in the dumps, you're going to hold, click, and drag down, and you will notice in live mode your sim's going to slouch a lot more. But if maybe you're trying to tell a different story and you want your character acting to look a little bit more lively, you'll click and drag up, and your sim will have impeccable posture. Now it's time for some controls. The first thing you want to know is that hitting Control Z will undo something, and then hitting Control Y will redo something. So, for example, if I made him have really thick thighs and I didn't want that, I would hit Control Z. But then if I had a second thought, like, no, his thighs should be thicker, I'll hit Control Y. So it's very similar to most software services that you're probably using. Now say that you have multiple sims in your household. So right here, I have 2 sims. If I didn't want to have to toggle between them by moving my mouse and clicking to each individual sim, I can just press the space bar. So, boom, easy edit right there. Now for some relevant cheats. To open the cheats menu, you'll hit Control, Shift, and C, and you'll see this white bar at the top. If you haven't already used cheats in The Sims 4, you're going to hit Testing Cheats True. You're going to see it on the screen right now. And then after you do that, you'll be able to use all the cheats in The Sims 4 that you want. Cheats are mainly used in build mode and live mode, but one cheat that I find that's very useful for create a sim mode is cast clock speed 0. And so if you just notice, my sim stopped moving, and that will let me work on this sim with a little bit more focus. Right. So one thing the game does not tell you explicitly is that once you finish creating your sim, say you're super happy with the sim, you press the check mark, it will not let you actually edit your sim very easily. What you're going to do is open up the cheats menu, again, so Control, Shift, and then C. Once you're in build mode or live mode, and you're going to want to type in what you see on the screen right now, that's going to enable you to edit your sim and other sims in any way you like. I'll do a quick pause right here for some of the relevant controls and cheats that I already mentioned. Feel free to pause and screenshot. Alright, now that you've figured out some cheats and controls, how do you actually make the sim from scratch? The way I like to chunk it out is into 2 different sections. So, the first section is just what I like to call the core personality section, and then the second section is how does your sim actually look? I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, and I'll do a few key callouts based off of stuff that I wish I knew because the game doesn't explicitly say it. Obviously, you can name your sim. I mentioned before you can randomize your sim's name, so this is Luca Velasquez, and you can even change their pronouns based off of they, them, she, her, he, him, or even custom pronouns. So if you want your sim to go by neo-pronouns, you can definitely do that. This personality section will let you do a few different key things core to their identities. So obviously, gender and sexual orientation is pretty key to anybody. So if you want your sim to be romantically attracted to men and women, you can definitely do that. Then this section is pretty important to what your sim's core identity is too, because it's your life stages. You can go as young as a toddler or as old as an elder. I'm going to use a young adult for this example. Depending on your life stage, you'll be able to use different things. For example, if you are a teenager, you'll be able to go to Copperdale High if you have the high school expansion pack. You can click your default walk style. So if you want a little bit of swagger like this guy, I'll do a swagger walk. You can even do a tough walk. Last few things to note in this personality plumb bob section is you can change your sim's voice. Household relationships. This is something that everyone who starts playing Create a Sim mode overlooks. If you have more than one sim in your household, you'll be able to choose a relationship that the sim you're currently working on has with that sim. In this case, let's have Sim 2 be Sim 1's wife. That's pretty much it for the callouts on the personality plumb bob section. We're going to go into this hexagon area right here, and there's going to be 3 main things you can edit here. Your aspiration, which is what you really want to do in their lives, some dislikes, some likes, and then some traits. So these are your Sims life goals, can actually be changed midway through your gameplay. There are a ton of aspirations, so my advice is to just choose one that you think will fit your Sim storytelling. So I'm gonna do he's a family man. He's a super parent. Now for likes and dislikes, I'm gonna randomize the Sims likes and dislikes right here, but you can definitely go in and choose your Sim specific likes and dislikes. You might notice your Sims mood affected based off of what they like and dislike once they're in live mode. And then there are traits. You can pick up to 3 traits, and these really do impact the way that your Sims likes to play out their life. For example, if this man really loves llamas, like I really want this guy to do farming in his gameplay, I might want to click animal enthusiast. What else can I click? I can click dog lover, and then maybe he hates children, but he loves animals. So there's a lot of different ways you can personalize your traits with The Sims. With all the controls out of the way, with all the personality boxes out of the way, we can finally get to styling our Sims from scratch. The way I like to start is by clicking this head section and then clicking the face section, because no matter how many fits you have, your face is always going to stay the same. There are a set number of faces that are preloaded into the Sims 4 game, so if you click face, face is right there. You can start off with one of these faces. Maybe this one is closer to what I wanted. I'll click that one, and then from here on out, it's really about adding the details to make sure that face looks as close to the vision that you want as possible. Another aspect of your Sim you're going to want to start out with is your skin tones. So again, if you click onto face, after faces, click on skin tones. You can obviously filter between warm, neutral, cool, and miscellaneous skin tones. If you want to find that perfect skin tone value and you don't already see it, say you click on here, you can actually adjust the brightness of your skin tone. So if you want it a little darker, you can go to the left. If you want it a little brighter, you can go to the right. The thing that the game does not explain to you though is if you found the perfect value that you always want to use, you click on this plus button to save it, and you have that skin tone value saved basically for the rest of your play session. Now the rest of the creative sim mode is really about choosing details to give your sim that storytelling and give your sim that personality that you want it to have. For example, if your sim smiles a lot, you're going to click onto skin details right here and then give them more defined smile lines to show that they are very cheerful or joyous. If you don't like the skin details that you've already chosen, you can press this X button right here and it'll clear out everything that you already put on. There's a variety of different options from teeth details, so if you have a chipped tooth, you can do that right here. If you have eye scars, maybe your sim is battle damaged, you can click that too. The last thing you should know about the face section right here is that you can drag and pull your sim's facial structure, eye structure, a lot of things about your sim's face to get the perfect look that you want. So if I wanted his head to be smaller, I can actually click on his head, drag down, and you got a small head now. If you do a double click into the detail edit mode, you can get very, very granular with the way your sim looks. If I wanted my sim to have really big pupils, if I wanted to have small pupils, I could do a very similar thing. Exiting detail mode, exiting the face section. Now for the hair section, the main thing everyone forgets or just doesn't know is that there are 8 different outfits that your sim will default to depending on how you style them in creative sim mode based off of what situation your sim is in live mode. So for example, the default is your everyday outfit. But when your sim sleeps, you're going to change into the sleeping outfit. The outfit selections are as follows. There are the everyday outfits, the formal outfits, athletic outfits if you're working out at the gym, of course when you're sleeping, party outfit, swimwear, hot weather, and then of course with hot weather, you got cold weather. So back to the hair section, you'll notice that you have basic hairs that everybody can choose from. However, if you scroll, you might be seeing some hairs that have icons on the top left of their boxes, and that's because you need those packs before you actually take those hairs. One last thing to note about hairs is that you can choose your sim's hair color, both for your facial hair and your regular hair. Maybe this dude, when he is working out, he always has a green beard. Hats. Now, there's not too much to say about hats, except for the fact that there are different swatches you have coming, so maybe if I choose this hat, it looks better in blue on this look. One other thing about hats, and this does actually extend to other parts of Creative Sim, is that if you scroll down, you'll see some hats are locked, and that's because you'll have to do something in-game to unlock them. Main thing to know about accessories, both for the face and for your body, is that there are also swatches for each accessory, so if I wanted to click here, and I wanted yellow glasses instead of brown or black glasses, you could do that too. And then the last section of the face section is makeup. So if you choose makeup, and you click on a swatch, very similar to skin tones, you can actually change the brightness, hue, all that good stuff with these sliders right here. And the nice thing about this is you'll be able to actually match your skin tone to your makeup. You can press this plus